Good guy, that Mike Garafolo.
He's my friend, and if you're watching this show, that means he's your friend. He's the NFL Network's Mike Garafolo. And Mike, the Indianapolis Colts have decided to switch up their quarterback situation. They have a new starting QB. It'll be Joe Flacco going on Sunday Night Football instead of Anthony Richardson. Mike, could this have anything to do with Richardson deciding to just pull himself out of the game this past Sunday?
No, I didn't know. It had to do with him, 2 for his first 15 passes in that game, more so than tapping out. Shane Steichen, the Colts head coach, pretty much gave him cover for that. Said he'd run 3 straight plays, and we were going to run the football there. And I don't think it was a great look inside that locker room. Look at all the former players who have come out and said, I've never seen that in all my years. And if I'm one of these offensive linemen and Anthony Richardson's trying to hype me up later in the game saying, hey, we need some more effort, like, weren't you the guy that tapped out? So I don't think it was great, but it wasn't the factor that went in here. It's more that Richardson needs more seasoning. And look, when he got drafted, when we were talking about him leading up to the draft, and even after he got drafted, he was with the Colts in training camp, a lot of evaluators around the league said he needs time. He needs to sit. And the Colts said, no, we feel like he's ready. They threw him out there. He got hurt. They threw him back out there this year, despite the fact they had Joe Flacco behind him. And I made the point to my colleagues, Tom Pelissero and Ian Rappaport. I said, I just feel like because it's one of the smallest markets in the league, and it's really not a hot-button market like in Philly or New York or even up in New England, if something like this situation had developed where you had Joe Flacco playing better behind Anthony Richardson, like they'd be screaming about this on a daily basis. And I feel like in Indianapolis it was like, So it bought the Colts a little bit more time. But you're right, this national TV game coming up right now, this is something that they had to do. Now, they have not quit on Anthony Richardson. They believe now that maybe the best tack for him would be to sit and to watch Joe Flacco and see how he goes through things both during the week and on game day. And the hope is that it'll help Richardson once he's back out there, whether it's later this season or whenever it winds up being, that he will finally tap into his full potential. We know the athleticism is there. We know the arm strength is there, Jay. It's all about the processing. It hasn't been there, and they're hopeful that this will help him.
And the team that beat the Colts last Sunday was the Houston Texans, and they got some horrible news on Wednesday. It's Stefon Diggs, the knee injury. It's bad. It's a torn ACL. He's out for the season. How big of a blow is this to a team that is leading the division right now?
Huge, because right now, Stefon Diggs, his energy was great in addition to being a receiving threat for the Texans coming down the stretch here. And the energy hasn't always been great for Diggs, just ask the Buffalo Bills. And right now it was hitting at the right time. So it's a tough one because we talked about this Texans receiving core. If you had the tight end in as well, you said, oh, look how many guys they have to throw to. Well, now Nico Collins gone for the time being, at least. Stefon Diggs gone for the rest of the season. I mean, it was pretty clear when DeMeco Ryans said, well, we're still evaluating the injury on Monday, that you knew that this was a significant one, because if they had good news, trust me, they would have hit us with it right away. So finally you get that confirmation on Tuesday. It is a tough one for the Texans, for C.J. Stroud. And I don't know what it's going to mean for Diggs moving forward with his career, whether he's done in Houston or whether he'll wind up back there on some kind of short-term deal, let's say. But I do feel for Stefon Diggs because he wanted that fresh start. He got it. When I talked to Tank Dell, who now is going to have to be the guy for the Texans, at least for right now. When I talked to Tank Dell in the preseason, he said the way that Stefon Diggs goes about his business every single day helps him, helps the receiving core, and he's really about making them better receivers. He'll do that, just won't be able to do it as far as being on the field. He'll just have to be with them while he's rehabbing this injury.
Mike, this all happens on the same day that a couple of big trades happen. So the Ravens pick up Diontae Johnson from the Panthers, and then the Vikings find their replacement for their injured left tackle, Christian Darrisaw. It's Cam Robinson from the Jags. So couple of contenders really shoring up their roster pretty early here, Mike.
Yeah. And a couple of guys who are impending free agents. So the team said, well, let's get what we can get for them now rather than wait and see what they sign as free agents, because then you get a comp pick, but you don't get it until a year later. So for the Panthers, who had traded for Diontae Johnson this offseason and had visions of him being a #1 target for Bryce Young, that just didn't happen. It didn't develop. I mean, his numbers are pretty good. He was on pace for close to 1,000 yards, despite the fact that this Panthers offense has not gotten going this season very often. So I think he's got the chance to go to Baltimore and put up good numbers to give himself a chance to sign a lucrative deal. Remember, he's still under 30. Give himself a chance to sign a lucrative deal as a free agent this offseason for the Ravens. They're looking at it for the short term. And I know a lot of folks said, did he really need another weapon? Yeah, you really need another weapon when you've got the kind of offense that they've got, and they feel like they are in the right situation right now, better than they've been in recent years, offensively and defensively, to make a push for a Super Bowl. So Diontae Johnson gets a chance to play in a dynamic offense, which he hasn't had for a couple of years, not since he was catching over 100 balls from Ben Roethlisberger. And you talked about Cam Robinson for Christian Darrisaw. The Vikings feel like, you know what, we're kind of in a window now where we sort of have to go for it. It wasn't great compensation that they had to give to Jacksonville for Cam Robinson, late round pick swap, a conditional depending on how much time he plays and moving forward what the Vikings are able to do. But this was one that had been in the works for a week, Jay. Like everybody we were waiting on this one to happen because it just made total sense, and we had heard that these teams were having discussions. I give the Vikings credit for saying, you know what, we lost Darrisaw. Maybe we've got a little house money. No, let's go for it. We've got the chance to be a successful team this year, and we need to protect Sam Darnold.
Okay, Mike, you may not know this, but you were on our show Monday night. We spotted you on the field. Yeah, after the Steelers win on Monday. You were lurking right behind Russell Wilson in his interview with Lisa Salters. There's Mike right there, and you're really searching for something. Mike, did you eventually find what you were looking for?
I did find what I was looking for. I found who I was looking for. It is Calvin Austin. He of the punt return touchdown and the receiving touchdown from Russell Wilson. Calvin Austin listed at 5'9", 162 pounds. I don't think he's 5'9", by the way. You can see me standing next to him, definitely eye to eye with him. I come in at 5'9". I think I've got the edge on this one. He's got the cleats to stand on as well. We had a great interview with Calvin Austin. He talked about the punt return, about how they've been talking about it coming into the game, and about how he said, I was mad at myself for not being a dynamic punt returner last year, so I really needed this one, and we thought we had a chance to pop it, and they certainly did in that game. But when you're out there and you've got 330, 6'4", 290, I mean, these guys are all in front of you. I mean, 5'9", 170. He's hard to find. Where is Cal? So that's basically what was happening, right? Because if you miss him and he goes back to the locker room and it's like, we'll get him, but you don't get that great atmosphere on the field interview. So you got to get him there. So that was me, like a linebacker trying to find that running back. Boom, got him.
Listen, here's what I can tell you, Mike. On this show, you will always be front and center. Thanks for this, pal.
Thank you, Jay. Hey, you're not hard to find. You should be an NFL player. There he is, right there. There's his head.
I should be. A punter at best.